Welcome back. Today's podcast, like many of our podcasts, is an answer to a question we've been getting a lot from all of you. And, when you have questions and you want answers, you can send those questions to Julie and I directly via Instagram. It's at Tim and Julie Harris, and just message us over on Instagram. Just drop a message in our box, and we'll certainly consider using it for the podcast. But also, this is an interesting question because I noticed it's coming up amongst our EXP family. Julie and I have a group of nearly 4,000 agents in our EXP Realty group. And we do a lot of coaching for them, a lot of, all the things necessary to help them stay in production. And a lot of people are very confused. Agents are very confused about how to get their buyers in contract, because buyers right now, especially this time of year, have all the normal, this time of year slow down emotions. Oh, we're going to wait till after the holidays. You guys are going to start hearing that any day now. Oh, we're going to wait until after Halloween. Oh, we're going to see what interest rates do. We're going to wait until after the election, all that stuff, right? So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be focusing on 5 ways to get your buyers in contract this week. 5 ways to get them in contract this week so that you can have more closings this year.
There you go. Now, before we get into those 5 ways, we're going to go over some assumptions, A, B, and C. So the first one is we're assuming that you have buyers in your pipeline who are both motivated and qualified. You know they're motivated and qualified because you've used your buyer prequalification scripts, and you know which ones of them also have homes to sell, i.e. listings for you. You know exactly what price range, neighborhoods, and criteria they're looking for. Now, if not, get back to work and use the prequalification questions that are in the scripts. You can get those scripts at premiercoaching.com by signing up for free.
And Julie, this is teeing me up for something that you and I were working on, 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. So Julie and I flew from Puerto Rico to our cabin in North Carolina. We came here for a couple of reasons: to make sure there was no storm damage, to help our neighbors out, but also because we love being on the plane, frankly, because it gives us an opportunity to really sit down and get a lot of work done.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we were working on is obviously the ethical real estate professional designation, which is going to be coming out soon. You guys will be learning more about that. I'm sure many of you will want to become ethical real estate professional agents. One of the USPs, the unique selling propositions you're going to be offering, is a list of 19 ways that you find homes for your buyers. And this is going to be something that is going to be a game changer for a lot of you, because really what's going to happen, and if you're not experiencing this yet, I promise you will be experiencing it when you start selling homes early into next year. There's going to be so much confusion from the buyers in particular, but really it's going to come a lot from the other agents about getting those exclusives signed. In other words, you have to be working with the buyer as an exclusive, using an exclusive contract. And Julie, what got me thinking about this was, you really do have to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, or you're going to be out of the buyer business for sure. And somebody was trying to, you and I were talking about the hack of trying to use a one-time showing agreement.
For everything all the time.
Right. And that was just that's the solution that some people are coaching and training you guys to do, just one-time showing agreement over and over. That's really a terrible idea. And
also lazy.
Well, yeah, but so let's give them the example. Like, let's say, for example, you show one house, have one agreement signed, then you can show another house, have another agreement signed. And then what happens then if you they meander off, say, okay, that's great. And on the way, driving home, they go into new construction, buy the new construction.
You're out.
You're out. You're not going to be part of that transaction. And really, again, what those types of little hacks are, when you see a lot of people, telling you guys to do that, it's really awful advice, because it's going to result in you taking a lot of your time and not ever getting paid. And the other thing we're starting to see is that there's a lot of people saying, here's what you say to a buyer: if the seller won't pay me, and you still want to buy the house, I'll just work for you for free. I cannot believe our industry is actually perpetuating that level of stupidity. Imagine if it was on the seller side, right? I mean, what you guys got to realize is that working with sellers using exclusive listing contracts and having a formalized presentation and essentially, beating the competition and getting that listing to be your listing versus, obviously losing it to a competitor, that's going to be the way it's going to work on the buyer side of the transaction as well. But the whole entire industry has been enjoying for decades now a sense of entitlement to a buyer agent commission. In other words, you sell a house to a buyer, you didn't have to have a presentation, the commission was going to be covered by the seller. You guys know the good old days, right? From about 90 days ago. Well, now here's the new reality. Just as if you were, competing for a listing, you're going to have to compete for that buyer. And you're going to have to actually win the business. You're going to have to win their trust to sign the exclusive buyer agency contract. How are you going to do it? And if you don't do it, how are you going to be in business? Because you have to do it. Yeah. You have to do it. The industry has never really, Julie and I have always, and all of our coaches and staff have always trained agents to get their exclusive signed. We've been doing this since 2000, right? And we've always said get exclusive signed. If the buyer won't sign one, that's not a real buyer. They're not that motivated. Well, weaker agents would have said, well, none of my competitors are asking for exclusives to be signed, and so my competitors are going to use my demanding of an exclusive to be signed as a way to get that buyer to work with them versus me. To which our answer always was, it's because you don't know how to sell the value that you're supposed to represent to the point where the buyer is going to want to sign exclusively with you. Again, just like listing agents have had to do since the dawn of humanity. You guys getting what I'm getting at here? So unless you have an actual presentation, an actual plan, you're not going to be in the buyer business, because the buyers are going to end up working with somebody else, or they're going to go directly to the sellers or directly to new construction builders. And we're already seeing that. Julie and I have some forward-looking indicators inside our EXP Realty group, and we can see what's happening. And there are a lot of the lower skilled agents are definitely suffering, needlessly. And that's one of the big motivations for us to come out with the ethical real estate professional designation. So what this is a turnkey solution for your, making it so that your buyer agent business is as formalized, as professional, and even, as competitive as it is and it should be on the listing side of things. So I want you to get on the list to be invited to the launch event, which should be happening hopefully the next couple weeks. And the easiest way for you to do that is just text the word buyer to 47372. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. And when you do, you'll be on the list. And then when we have the launch webinar, which should be happening in the next couple weeks, you'll be invited. We did make a decision that the designation is only going to be opened up to 2,500 agents. We're going to make it exclusive. And this is going to be it's going to be a coaching program on the back end. So this is a great way for you to get a launch into the new year before you find out the hard way that you're not competitive on the buyer side of the business. Definitely want to get your mind around the idea that the world really truly has changed, but because there's so many people that you're competing against who have not yet adapted to the change or really realized that there is a change, you have a competitive advantage right now because you will be an ethical real estate professional agent. So do not waste time thinking about it and getting ready to get started or saying you're going to do this next year. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372, and we'll invite you to that launch event. We're really, truly excited about it. We are confident that you're going to be absolutely thrilled with the program Julie and I created. And by the way, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of training around it via Zoom trainings and Facebook groups for all the initial people that join the organization and the ethical real estate professional designation when we launch it in the next couple of weeks. So text the word buyer to 47372. Didn't mean to go that long, but it's because it's on my mind because we've been working on it constantly. But let's get to it, Julie. 5 ways to get your buyers in contract this week.
Okay, so on to 5 ways to get your buyers in contract this week. Number 1, created a wanted flyer. Premier Coaching clients, you know what that is. Create a wanted flyer for each of your buyer clients. Wanted, your home for my pre-approved, or maybe you say all cash if that's the case, highly motivated buyer clients. Describe your buyer's needs, describe their price range, and their desired communities, especially if you can do that by name. You're not going to name your buyer. You're not going to say, the Harris family is looking, but you're going to describe them with enough detail that you are targeting those neighborhoods that they're looking at. An example.
Okay, well, let's give them a real practical way to do that, and you get your example, like how to actually do the
Sure.
flyer and distribute it,
Yep.
okay? So the most efficient way, and this is not the most effective way, but the most efficient way is to insert it into a local newspaper. Now I realize not every community in North America has something like this, but yours probably does. It's the newspaper that shows up at the door. Sometimes it's got coupons on it. Sometimes it's almost always the newspaper that's going to report on the local football, high school football scores.
This is the smaller newspaper. So if you live in LA, this would not be the LA Times. It would be more like the Long Beach Chronicle or whatever that it's
Exactly.
called.
Find something that the locals read. Insert the flyer into that paper. And by inserting it, it's literally just... they have a little thing that's a pneumatic thing that blows it right into the paper when they're actually folding
Like they do with ads and stuff.
Exactly. So that is what I'm talking about. And do a real, attention-grabbing fluorescent color. And you can buy the paper. And now sometimes the paper itself, the newspaper, is going to insist that they print it for you. And if they don't, you can actually save a lot of money and buy a fluorescent paper. There's paper wholesalers. You can get it online. There's probably one in your town. Now, some of you are saying, oh my God, newspapers. What the hell are you guys talking about? This is 2024. The reason that we're suggesting newspapers more than digital, if you have the advantage of a newspaper, is because it's going to have a better result than digital. You can do digital version as well. You can do all the Facebook ad and all the social media stuff. But a local newspaper, do you guys notice how hardly any real estate people advertise in the newspaper anymore? Because they're all chasing the digital aspect of it. And again, the newspaper is going to be way more effective. And generally speaking, the demographic of the people that read newspapers are going to be homeowners.
Well, you just read my mind, because I've got several of my private coaching clients who do this type of, that do this type of hard copy marketing, whether they're postcards or inserts, and they all report the same thing. And I think this is really fascinating and a little known fact, especially in the more upper end, when we, adjust accordingly depending on where you live. But I'd say 750 to $1 million, 2 million, where a lot of my coaching clients are selling, they get a dramatically better response from those neighborhoods with, I don't want to say older, because, we're getting to be older as well.
But it is, though. I mean, it's people that, it's the
people that own those types of homes.
Right.
Yeah, they're not on Facebook, looking at ads.
Well, they're certainly not on TikTok, right?
They're not on TikTok,
Right.
and they do read the newspaper, and they do look at their mail.
Now,
Okay.
so Premier Coaching clients, there's a sample of this ad. It's called basically a wanted flyer. So here's the visualization, and Julie just give them the example.
So it says wanted. You can use, we like to use the Old West font. You're not going to say dead or alive, but you're going to say wanted.
It's to make them laugh. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you're living in a posh community where, people wouldn't know a cowboy, but if it showed up on their doorstep, or he showed up on their doorstep, something where it's a wanted Old West kind of thing will make people laugh. If you don't think that's appropriate, adjust accordingly. But again, the whole thing is to grab attention, thus the obnoxious sort of ugly color of the flyer, and then something that's going to be at the top of it. You got to leave a lot of white space when you're doing this. Again, if you're a Premier Coaching client, just copy the samples we have, because they've worked for other students. But definitely have something that's attention grabbing. And Julie's going to give you an example, but have maybe when you're listening to her, think in terms of having 3, 4, or 5 of these, and they're each different buyers looking for a different product in a different price range.
So wanted, your home for my all cash, very motivated buyer clients. This family is looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home, ideally in Albany Woods. Remember, you're targeting this to their neighborhoods. A fenced backyard is a plus. Flexible closing date. Looking up to $750,000. Call me today if your home is a match.
Now, the level 2 on this is saying, family of 4, or, a family of whatever, relocating from wherever. Give some extra color to it. Make it more
real.
personalized. All of you have buyers like this, right? So make it real. Don't give the buyers names or anything like that. But just say, they have a big dog, and, they're looking for something with a fenced-in backyard, things like that. And then, again, make it specific to the type of neighborhood that have these buyers looking. We have so many success stories of coaching clients who took this idea, they printed up these flyers. So each flyer, again, the first one's a buyer, relocating family of 3, from moving from San Francisco to looking in these particular neighborhoods in Austin up to this price point. And okay, then you go, that's buyer 1. Then buyer 2 is going to be somebody looking for a small ranch north of Austin, and they're looking for up to 5 acres, and enough room for 3 horses and things like that. But again, then buyer 3 and buyer 4 and buyer 5, not too many. Now, if you want to make it specific to a neighborhood, then you want to obviously clue in the buyer's descriptions as pertains just to that one particular community. So Julie was using Albany Woods. We used to sell in New Albany, Ohio. And in New Albany, Ohio, that would be very, distinct. Looking for New Albany, Ohio, all brick, Georgian home, up to $2 million, up 5 bedrooms, 6 is even better, flexible closing. You guys, again, that's the whole idea, is for them to understand that these are real buyers ready to close. Flexible closing is really important to put in all your flyers, especially this time of year. Now, the flyer inserted into the paper, or you can then go game 2 or level 2 is to go door knock, which is Julie's second point.
Yes. Number 2, use your wanted flyer. Again, we're making one piece of marketing, using it multiple ways to get your buyers in contract. Use that same wanted flyer to door knock their desired neighborhoods. Be sure to research any expired, withdrawn, temporarily off the market, and for sale by owners in that same area, and prioritize those homes.
Well, that way, when you're knocking on the door and it expired 3 months ago, you're not caught with your pants down when they say, well, my house is just for sale. So know the market before you walk in there. And even better, have something in your back pocket that's going to tell you the exact what's going on in the market. Do a CMA for that overall market in different price points depending on how big of an area and how much diversity there is in terms of price and product.
Yes, and by the way, my elite coaching client, Kristen Hawley, was just featured in my Vetted by Housing Wire article for doing this exact thing. The article was How to Be a Successful Agent, and she was an example of somebody who is a matchmaker. That was a section of the article talking about, doing exactly this, taking what your buyer's wants are and going and finding it yourself and putting the entire transaction together.
So where you guys get confused in all this, and I totally and completely understand, it's because you're thinking, Tim, that's going to take time. Tim, you're expecting me to door knock? Oh my God, how old school. Oh, how is that? Blah, blah, blah. You have all these things that are floating around your head. I have to leverage. I'm not going to do anything that's not leveraged. You've been watching a lot of videos online about, how you can do one Facebook ad and it's going to have all these impressions and all the rest of it and all these other things. All right, here's the problem. Everyone's doing it. That's it. So those digital things are so saturated that people don't even pay attention to them anymore. There's been lots of studies, you guys have probably heard this too, that millennials don't even see Google pay-per-click ads anymore. The little ads that are at the top of every search query. People aren't even noticing those. So that's the reason that the things that put you directly, like we're giving you examples today, that put you directly in front of people are the ones that are most effective because nobody else is doing them. There's whole generations of agents that have lost the ability to have, conversations with strangers.
IRL.
Exactly. IRL, as the kids say, as our kid says. So do this flyer idea. Look, guys, be a little greedy. Go door knock in the more expensive areas where you have more expensive buyers. Those people are the exact same folks that have just bought and sold. They bought their first house back in the 90s and now they're on their, third, fifth, 10th house, doesn't matter. And so what if it's worth $10 million? They're going to be the same people. They're going to understand that you're looking for a house for their neighbor. And guess what? They're thinking about putting it for sale in the spring. But since you have a buyer now, that they'll probably, forward their plans. The whole idea here is for you to get off your butt, get into action, and get out there and meet the neighbors. And that's going to give you a lot of confidence. It's going to make you uncomfortable at first, but shouldn't just running a bunch of ads, or you got to A/B test that ad. You've got to,
take a Facebook survey about it.
Exactly. Just make a little simple flyer and go out and get to know the folks that you want to be doing deals with. And you'll soon discover that real estate is a hell of a lot easier than what a lot of you are thinking and frankly treating it to be.
Yes. Now, the next couple of points do have you doing this online, but it's using that same flyer. You're turning that into a post for your social media. So we know you're going to do it anyway, but here's the rule. You can't only do this, right? Okay, so number 3, post your wanted flyer on your social media with a call to action to message you back to see if your buyer is a match for their home. When you get messaged, this is important, call, pick up the phone, talk into it, the person back with urgency. Remember, it may or may not be a match for your buyers that you're hunting for, but it's still a potential listing lead either way.
And by the way, you guys noticed we're not suggesting you buy buyer leads, or frankly, you're going to be getting a lot of listing leads this way too. There are no referral fees with anything we're telling you to do. The cost of a flyer is going to be less than 10 cents, probably more like 4 cents each. Again, don't go cheap on this because you're going to be giving them something and they're going to be holding it in their hand. And there's a technique to doing the door knocking when you're actually talking with folks you don't know. If you give them the flyer right when they open the door, they're not going to look at you, and you want them looking at you, and give them the flyer when you're done talking to them. And say, and the scripts are all on Premier Coaching. And if you're not in Premier Coaching, text the word Premier, P-R-E-I.
P-R-E-M-I-E-R. P-R-E-M-I-E-R.
I like to do that to drive Julie crazy. Yes. Or just go to premiercoaching.com and join Premier Coaching for free. But it's not a difficult conversation because here you are, you're looking professional, you're knocking on their door, you're letting them know that you have somebody that's interested in buying their house, or do they know of any others that might be coming for sale. And you're also going to be able to give them, I would assume 99% of the time, fantastic news about what their home's worth because you've got the CMA right there. They're going to have questions about what homes are selling for, and you're going to make a contact. And that contact it's so much more powerful than, I sent out a spam and they opened my email. No. Can you guys imagine how much more powerful having Tim, I can only have so many conversations, 10 people maybe in a day. Well, that's 10 people that you've made contact with that are going to remember you forever. But I can contact 1,000 people on social. They're not going to remember you because there's 1,000 other agents that have also tried to, get essentially see
an
their
impression.
Exactly. That's exactly the word I was thinking. You guys understanding where we're getting at here? Yes, you ultimately are using your time for your results. But this time of year, it's going to be more effective, because ultimately what we're working up to, and we're going to be sharing this with you any day now, is your fourth quarter massive action plan. And one of the things that are part of the fourth quarter, that is part of the fourth quarter massive action plan, is getting into, massive action. So if you've never done this sort of work before, you're going to feel a massive sense of relief, because you are actually in control of the results that you get. Now, you got to do this strategically. Don't door knock when no one's home. Okay? Don't door knock where the neighborhood's full of gates. So be smart about where you're going to go, and obviously go where your buyers are pointing you. That's ultimately what we're hoping that you understand. Real estate is the simplest business you could possibly be in if you're willing to do the real work. It's all the things that you guys add to it that make it feel complicated. Make it feel, I got to do funnels, I got to do websites. The social and the digital stuff and the marketing and the advertising stuff is there to reinforce the real life stuff. So let's just imagine you're working in a neighborhood. You got 10 buyers who are looking in this particular neighborhood. You've made this flyer. You're door knocking. You decided every single day for the next, 3 months, you're going to you're going to hit as many doors as necessary to have 10 conversations with decision-making adults about buying or selling real estate. You're going to give them that flyer. All the while, you have targeted a social media campaign to people who live in that particular neighborhood. So they're online and they're seeing your buyer's wanted sign, your buyer's wanted flyer, an iteration of it, and then you're actually at their door. Do you guys see how the combination of those things will give you such an advantage? Because so many folks right now are making decisions about who they're going to hire to be their listing agents in the spring. You now have proven your willingness and your ability to be incredibly proactive and powerful. Hopefully you're understanding this is your opportunity to get a huge jump on next year.
Very well said. All right, number 4, make a short video using the wanted theme for each buyer and send it to your database with a call to action for them to text you, email, or call you with a house matching your buyer's needs. Also, send this to your agent database, since most listing agents have properties in their coming soon pipelines. I know my elite coaching clients on average have between 5 and I would say 12 coming soon listings in their pipeline that will list with them in the next, I'd say 60 to 90 days tops, and in many times in the next 30 days. And I have to say, John Walkinshaw in Canada is very good at this. And Tammy Irby in Northern Virginia is fantastic at this as well. She made one of the best videos I've ever seen on this topic for the wanted. She was pulling the trees away, and she had a safari hat on. And she said, finding a house for my buyers in this market is kind of like going on a safari. It could be hiding in plain sight, but you have to hire a professional like me to find it for you. It was a great video.
Jules, just imagine. These guys are listening. They're starting to, the switches are getting flipped. They're starting to feel the spark. They're starting to feel optimistic.
Yep.
They're starting to realize they can actually control their own destinies in meaningful ways. Maybe they've had fantastic years and maybe they're kind of taking a step back. I strongly encourage you to, jump forward and realize that your new year's already started. Your 2025 starts at the start of first quarter of 2024. Please don't forget I told you that. It's incredibly important. Or maybe you're just on track. You've had a good year, not a great year. Or maybe you're way behind. Wherever you are in the spectrum of success and income for this year, you can certainly embrace all these things that we're talking about. Now, you're in front of the buyer. You're explaining to your buyer or buyers what you're going to be doing to help them find a house. You're showing them your wanted flyer. You're explaining to them that you're going to go door knocking in the neighborhoods that they're listing or that they're looking in. And guess what? That buyer also has a house to sell. Do you see how that gives you an unbelievably powerful and fair advantage in the marketplace when you're trying to get that buyer to commit to you who's also going to be a seller? Mm-hmm. Now you're knocking on the door of that neighborhood where this buyer wants to move up to, and you're getting to know every one of these sellers. You're getting to know them. You're hopefully getting their information. They're getting you their information. They're going to remember you. They're going to pass that flyer along to a neighbor that they learn, the next day after you knocked on their door who's thinking about putting their house for sale. This is the real work of real estate. This is how when the spring rolls around and you all of a sudden have a bunch of listings and you all of a sudden have a bunch of closings and you're carrying an enormous amount of momentum into 2025 and it just compounds more and more and more. This is how you set yourself apart in the marketplace. And then people start seeing your signs. They start, the buyers who are moving into the houses say, yeah, Bob helped me buy this house. And this is how you actually can use a time of uncertainty like this to your advantage, especially this time of year. Julie and I always drilled down in fourth quarter, going after the old expireds, the new expireds, the for sale by owners, our centers of influence and past clients. We did not want to wait until first quarter of the following year to build momentum because that's when everyone else does it too. You want to do it now so you have a huge surge of activity rolling into the new year, not building the activity. Because if you have to start building January 1st, you're not going to see the results for your efforts until when? Maybe March, maybe April, maybe May. That's the reason so many agents have these really short, few months of making money, and it's like a big bell, if you can imagine that. It's a literal bell curve. No money, no money, lots of money, no money, no money. That's because of when you're putting in the effort. So do it now. That way you roll into the year with a bell curve and you keep the momentum up. And by the way, you will consistently build on that business, not just month over month, but year over year.
Consistent effort equals consistent results. That is a fact. And anybody who tells you it's normal to be starving half the time in real estate, you should stop listening to. That's not normal. Maybe for them it is, but don't listen to them.
And again, there are no referral fees with anything we're asking
Nothing.
you to do.
Okay. So point number 5, post your wanted flyer on nextdoor.com/neighborhood name for the neighborhoods that your buyers are looking in, as well as any neighborhood Facebook pages, WhatsApp groups, etc. And yes, I have had multiple times where coaching clients have not just found a house for their buyer, but also taken listings that they got the call from doing that, even though that wasn't an actual match for their buyers.
So I'm going to give them a 0.5 that's along those lines.
Okay.
One of the things that Julie's having some of her coaching clients do is create neighborhood directories. You want to talk about that?
Oh, I love the neighborhood directory. So there's different versions of this. It depends on how big your neighborhood and things like that. But let's describe what it is.
First of all, we know that there are digital neighborhood directories.
Of course.
Okay, we know and we're perfectly well aware that digital exists, but we want to bend you guys towards doing non-digital stuff primarily because that's the stuff that nobody's doing. If all of a sudden everyone starts talking about the things that we're talking about, we're going to find a new way for you guys to have a unfair advantage in your marketplace.
To get noticed.
To get noticed because right now, these neighborhood directories, when you give them the actual paper directory, it's so powerful and you've established yourself as someone who's actually trying to contribute to the community.
Also, it's something that nobody ever throws away ever for any reason because you're not just putting the names. Let's say you've got a 200-person neighborhood, right? Maybe it's a good place to start would be your own neighborhood, perhaps.
Let's talk about it. So a neighborhood directory is just like it sounds. You're going to look, I don't want you guys to get stuck on this first part, but you can get businesses to sponsor it. But if you can't, do it anyway.
It's not expensive.
It's not expensive. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have, again, don't overthink it. I could just feel your collective brains overthinking it already. Here's the work. You're going to go to people's doors. You can mail them something. You could
email a list.
That's true. But really, you're going to have to do multiple attempts to get them to actually contribute to this. Some of you already have these. That's from the HOA. And maybe you're allowed to use it, maybe you're not. It's a good starting point. But really what we want you to do is in these times of uncertainty where electrical grid issues and people are worried about this and they're worried about the other thing, what people really truly want, even in very well sewn together communities, is a sense of community. They want to know, essentially, if I need to help my neighbor, if I need help, how am I going to get in contact with that person?
Yes. Okay. And I do have coaching clients putting these together. And we also were part of that. Remember when we did New Albany Women's Network?
Yep.
There were different versions of this. Okay. So here's the idea. Of course, you're going to start with your list of 200 people, their addresses, their phone number, their emails. That's the neighborhood people. The other pages you're going to have in there is a disaster preparedness page. So for example, we live in Puerto Rico. I have a Puerto Rican coaching client. On her page, for example, it's who's going to fill up the generator tank, who's going to bring the water to the water cisterns, who's going to clear the roads, all of that type of thing. We just had hurricanes. We're here in North Carolina right now seeing some of the hurricane damage. Who do you call in those situations, right? So you have that page. You have another page for your local school contact numbers and maybe website addresses for school lunches and things like that. And you could expand that to a football schedule, lots of different things. But the most important thing is, guess whose picture is on the back cover?
Well,
yours.
And not additionally, it's who's actually doing the effort to put it together. So for example, a listing would have, and this is voluntary, they don't have to participate. They could just say choose not to participate.
Stay unlisted for their name.
Just stay unlisted, but it's kind of dumb if they do. But if they do, they do. It's up to them. But you want to have the directory have their names. You want to have their kids' names. You want to have what kind of pets they have. And if you really want to take it to the next level, include pictures of the pets. Now, why that? Because if you see a dog meandering around in the neighborhood and it's got it doesn't have a collar on it with a tag, happens all the time, right? Or a cat, I suppose, or a monkey, it depends on where you live. Right. You want to be able to, identify whose pet that is so you can actually call them versus just like calling the authorities and hoping the cops show up and the whole thing. You guys get the point? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to them and you're going to say, look, this is something that we can all use to basically make it so we can help each other out when the time comes, to the points that Julie just made. And then also, it's a way for us for all of us collectively, when we see something that's in the neighborhood, maybe there's a truck that we keep seeing in the neighborhood, or maybe there's a problem with, something, we can all communicate with each other. But start out. So everyone's going to have, their normal name, the address, as much as if they want to put their kids in there, that'd be great. I would personally, so that they'll know what Zoe looks like. They'll know if they see Zoe lost or hurt. They'll know who her parents are, all those things. And, include whatever pets they might have. But then beyond that, you want to have all their socials. And then you want to actually form a private, Julie mentioned,
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. WhatsApp's probably the best one. But you want to form a private community WhatsApp group or a Facebook group. Everyone's on WhatsApp. Everyone's on Facebook. They're the same thing.
You do both.
You can do both. And then, again, a way for everyone to communicate. Like in our neighborhood in Puerto Rico, Julie had the idea, why don't we have the whole street basically decorated with Christmas lights? She went to WhatsApp, and we don't even sell real estate.
Our neighborhood WhatsApp group.
Right. And people love the idea, right? So you do these types of things. But what we're really hoping you understand is you're the hub of this community. You're going to know about things coming for sale. Again, there's going to be some outliers that don't want to participate, and that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, and how do you update it? So every year or every quarter, you're going to go through property records, and you're going to find essentially the homes that have been bought and sold, hopefully through you, and then you're going to contact those people. Let's say it isn't one of your transactions, and you're going to welcome to the community, ask them if they want to participate. Then every year you can update your directory. And again, you can get people to pay for it, to sponsor it. But this puts you in an unbelievably powerful position. And everyone's going to be really appreciative of it because they're going to say, everyone wants to have that sense of community. Everyone wants to have that same sense of connectiveness. And this gives, I think, really it's a security thing more than most anything.
Well, it is. And people absolutely use that and keep it. So make it something that you would keep in your home. I'm thinking about, coaching clients that work micro communities. Maybe they have 5 of those neighborhoods. Put the HOA director in there. Like if maybe you do see somebody creepy in the neighborhood, who are you supposed to call? Do you have security? Do you have the HOA? What are the important phone numbers? So make it a resource. And keep in mind too, when there is disaster stuff, like we barely have internet today, right? So are you going to go look that up online? Maybe you can't. You're going to go to that directory that's in your kitchen drawer that that so-and-so agent put together, and what a great service and how much I really appreciate the effort that they put into that. Those types of things live on forever, and then you can update them yearly. You could do a neighborhood party where everybody updates it. This is an infinitely expandable, very inexpensive, very powerful way to talk about, this is all related to real estate, right? We're talking about a neighborhood directory. You can do that with very little cost, and it forces you to talk about real estate.
Jules, we need to do a podcast around how to actually create one of these.
That's a great
idea. And then
idea.
inside Premier Coaching, we'll actually create the template.
Yep.
So I'll help you with that.
Okay.
So we've just motivated each other to come up with a new topic for you guys and some more content for you.
Well, I get excited about stuff like this.
Well, it's because it's such a no-brainer thing.
It is.
And like you said, these directories never leave the house.
No.
People leave them in the...
They protect them.
Right. Well, we got tons of business this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would pick up all kinds of... when people go to their... thinking about putting their houses for sale, sometimes even before they hire an agent, they're going to go and clean out their kitchen drawers, and they're going to do these other things. And here's your neighborhood directory.
Directory sponsored by...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep yourself in the center of the community. And you're obviously bringing tremendous value, and you're not even really overtly even asking for something in exchange for that. They're going to really love you for that.
That's right. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. Okay, number 6. All of what we just talked about might not matter if you don't do number 6. Get serious about your buyer presentation. Don't be the reason that your buyers aren't in contract, or worse yet, that they're in contract without you. You can't blow that off anymore. So we talked about that at the top of the podcast, how you're going to get involved with Ethical Real Estate Professional. And of course, for more proactive ways to find inventory for your buyers, to do your buyer presentation, Just join Premier Coaching by going to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier to 47372.
All right, so this is a bonus point, something else Julie and I were talking about on the plane, but something else I'm really excited to share with you guys. So a lot of agents they're not asking this question directly, they're asking it indirectly. They're worried about the effects of AI in the real estate industry, what it's going to do to, real estate practitioners. Are we going to be relevant? All these types of things. And so I'll give you the good news first. So yes, you're going to be relevant more so than ever because of AI. AI is going to make it so that you're going to have what's called an AI agent that's going to essentially run your business and personal life for you. And what's going to give you...
A digital agent, not a real agent.
Right, exactly. Thank you. A digital agent. So we're going to do a podcast and some training around what we think is going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months and the effects of AI in your space. But I'm going to give you guys where you should be focusing. Ultimately, what's going to there's going to be a huge bifurcation of agents. Agents who primarily tried to build their businesses digitally, that have never taken the time to learn the art and the science of essentially being of value to other people in a very personal, high-level way. Those are the agents that are going to have problems because the technology is going to make them obsolete. Yeah. Because the agents that have been doing the dripping and the agents have been doing all this digital stuff and social media stuff, AI is going to be able to replicate to, the highest level, the look and the feel of what those agents have been trying to do. But the agents that have created the directories, the agents that have created these personal relationships, you're never going to be delegated or relegated to the ash bin of history from AI, ever, ever, ever. And you can see that. Here, I'll give you guys an example. So I'm going to ask you a question. Did the internet kill the travel agent industry? Are there more travel agents now, in 2024 than there were, say, before the travel agent industry? I mean, what is the travel agent industry still around? Is it still? I mean, haven't we all been told that the internet killed the travel agent industry? Well, I have great news for you. It didn't. Matter of fact, there's more travel agents now than there ever have been, and the travel agent industry is actually exploding. And I don't remember the exact number.
I read an article about that.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
And so that's what's happening is the agents had to retool their approach to working with their clients and leverage the technology to do a lot of the menial, crappy-ass work that they had to do before. If you think about it, guys, and let's say you work for 8 hours. Yeah, I know that's a joke. You don't work for 8 hours, but just for the sake of explanation, how much time during that 8-hour period are you actually having conversations with decision-making adults about buying and selling real estate versus doing all the other crap? Think about that.
Some of them could go weeks without having
exactly. Have you guys ever thought about that? Did you get in the real estate business to make websites and funnels and social media content and all these other things? Nope. You got into real estate to help people buy and sell real estate.
To transact.
Exactly. And that's how you, by the way, get paid. But if you look at how much time you've allocated to the actual job of buying and helping people buy and sell real estate. And I get it. You guys have been told and sold into believing that you have to spend all your nights and weekends doing all this other thing. Otherwise, no one will ever choose you to want to be their real estate professional. But I think you're discovering as you listen to our podcast, because we've got over 5,000 past podcasts, I think you're discovering that that is actually not true. And technology is validating what Julie and I have been saying to you guys for decades, that the fact is that the agents that are willing to have the personal, meaningful conversations with folks, and they're enhanced by digital, are the ones that are going to control the space. Now, meet AI. AI is going to make it so that that's even more true, even more so than we ever thought it would be. Hopefully, this is leaving an impression upon you that you do have a huge advantage if you're willing to actually embrace what your highest and truest purpose on this planet is, which is being of service to other people. That should motivate you because it's going to be probably 12 to 24 months, if not longer, before the rest of the industry wakes up and realize what we just told you is true. Yeah. That's the typical, like in normal time frames, like, things other than in real estate, when something happens, the industry will feel like the next month. When something happens in real estate, look, we had this commission sharing thing in August, and here we are in October, November, and how many agents don't even know about it? A vast majority don't know about it.
That's true.
And I'll tell you how a vast majority are going to find out about it. They're going to go to closings in first quarter, having put that buyer in contract and not realizing that they're not going to get paid. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, and they're going to be woken up to it. That's going to happen to brokerage. That's going to happen to agents. That's going to happen to teams. What do you mean there's no buyer agent commission? You didn't ask for it in the contract. You didn't have an exclusive signed. That's the unfortunate fact of how our industry reacts to things. It doesn't react.
It has to learn by pain.
Exactly. Don't be like that. we're trying our best to keep you guys ahead of the curve, the inevitable many curves that are coming our direction, but be excited about it because it gives you an opportunity to pull away from your competition and to really excel and become the best version of yourself as a real estate practitioner. Hopefully this motivates you. It is our purpose.
One last thing, because they're going to get into action as a result of these points. You've all got buyers in your pipeline. Remember, this was about getting them in contract, not just in the pipeline, in contract this week. So Tim, they're going to want to get the notes, and I don't think we mentioned how to do that.
Right. Harris Real Estate Daily is our daily newsletter. Harris Real Estate Daily. It's free. Just subscribe to it, and you'll get today's notes and all the notes from our past podcasts. And that's your homework. And definitely want to join Premier Coaching if you've not done that yet. And remember, get on the list to be invited to attend the launch event for Ethical Real Estate Professional. On the launch event, we're going to allow 100 agents to enroll in the program. Then we're going to close the doors for probably 30 or 60 days. And then the total number of these designations that were new members, basically, that we're going to have as part of that organization is going to be 2,500. We've limited it, frankly, because we want it to be exclusive. So, keep this in mind. If you want to really differentiate yourself in the marketplace, imagine sitting in front of a buyer or seller and, pridefully telling them that you are an ethical real estate professional. And then you're going to show them this beautiful website. You're going to show them the pledge that you've taken and the other things you're doing, the unique selling proposition behind being an ethical real estate professional. The very things that you guys are trying to create in digital as far as really differentiating yourself, we've done it for you with this new designation. Now, the seller then is meeting with another agent after you, and they're going to ask, are you an ethical real estate professional? And that other agent isn't. Don't you think that's going to put you in a tremendous advantage when winning that potential buyer or seller's business? That's what we want you guys to have, a tremendous advantage. So text the word buyer, BUYER, to 47372. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.